Hi, welcome to another episode. I am here today with Brad Kugler from DirectMail 2.0. Welcome, Brad.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Happy to be here as always. Love to talk about myself for an hour or so.
well, good. We'll see what we can come up with. So,
Right.
so Brad, if you could tell our listeners a little bit about how you got started with the DirectMail 2.0 and the process you went through and all that, that would be great.
Sure. So basically, I'd have to go back about 25 years, and I won't take 25 years to tell the story, but I was in family business for 24 years, and we started as a wholesale distributor of entertainment goods, CDs, DVDs. That might tell you most of the story right there. Obviously, nobody's buying those anymore. So it quickly became apparent in the 2012 to 2015 that I was on a sinking ship. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I was the last guy off the sinking ship. My family, who were my business partners, all departed one at a time for greener pastures. And I was left to kind of captain the ship to the bottom of the ocean, which I have to say the final 3 years of the business, as its sales are eroding at 30% a year, debt is building. This was a 20-some-year-old company that at its peak was doing $25 million, and we had 50 employees. It was a thriving business that supported my extended family. And the writing was on the wall for a long time. It was no surprise. I mean, when a business is being disrupted by technology, it doesn't happen overnight. There are always signs. And we worked our best to get into the streaming world or some sort of digital delivery, but there was no way to compete with the Netflixes and the Amazons and the iTunes. It was, unless you've got a bankroll of several hundred million, like even 100 million isn't even enough. It was a one-way ship. So obviously I had some time as the business was sinking into the abyss to say, well, what am I going to do next? I'm only late 40s, early 50s. I'm not going to have anything to retire on. My 401k isn't big enough. I don't have enough equity in my house. I got 3 kids in college. I had to plot another career, and I was a college dropout, and I knew one thing that I'd look for. It was a recurring revenue business that was not disruptible. So I started doing a lot of involvement with the local tech startup groups. I was always a techie. I'm one of the first people that brought CDs and DVDs online. I got to meet Jeff Bezos. We were one of the best sellers of third-party CDs and DVDs on Amazon for years. And I knew something about technology. So in my year-and-a-half search, I was approached by an old ex-employee. Her name still is, Joy Genduza, and she was our top salesperson in the early 90s. She sold more VHS than anybody else. Anyway, so she had left and done a bunch of sales room jobs being a single mom, and she was selling print vacations. I'm saying vacations that would come with offers in the mail. And she'd look at the offers. She's like, I can do this better. I can design this better. I went to graphic arts school. I know how to sell. Long story short, again, she created a $50 million print marketing business and sold direct mail and blew it up over 20 years. This wasn't an overnight success. And she came to me and said, hey, listen, Brad, I know your business is pretty much DOA and you're going to need something to do. And I've got something. I have a marketing technology I'd love to spin off for direct mail. We have a digital marketing add-on for direct mail that tends to lift the direct mail response rate by 50%. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Tell me more. So, we talked for several weeks, and, my mind's going, okay, I can recurring revenue. Digital marketing is ever changing, can't be disrupted. I like this. So I took the gig. She supported my household for a couple of years while we got profitable. It took about 2.5 years to start turning a positive cash flow. And we've now grown it to $5 million and over 20 employees. And we have I like to say it's an agency in a box. It's a marketing platform for people or companies that are involved in direct mail. We do all these digital ad-on wizardry, which we can get into later, that is very cheap, few pennies per piece, And we see a lift of about 50% in people that are doing direct mail. So it's specific to an industry that is involved with using direct mail. And I can answer many of those questions, but I've talked long enough, and I'll let you ask the next question.
Sorry, I was along for the ride, man. So this is good. The question that I naturally come to then is, well, so when you say non-disruptable, I mean, I think that there's industries that direct mail works for, and there's industries that don't, right? So what industries? I mean, I think the non-interruptible question is going to be answered by what industries does this work for?
Great. That's a fabulous question. So direct mail is not cheap. Obviously, people tend to stay away from it because, I can send an email for a fraction of a penny. I can do digital ads for, $6 per 1,000 impressions. And to get 1,000 impressions in somebody's mailbox is going to cost me close to $3,000 or $4,000. Who wants direct mail, right? Well, to answer that question, not everybody does want direct mail. If you're selling pizzas for $20, you're not going to go spend $1 on everybody's mailbox in the neighborhood. It just doesn't, there isn't going to be that ROI. Now, if you're a financial services company selling rollovers on 401ks, or you're a realtor trying to get listings in a certain neighborhood, or you're an HVAC company that needs to replace an air conditioner or a roof every 10 years, that's anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000, there's the ROI. So when people ask, well, who wants to do direct mail? I'd have to say, if your lifetime customer value or your first couple of invoices are over $1,000, then direct mail should be considered. Why would it be considered? It is more effective than hundreds of emails. It's something you hold in your hand. You don't, even if you stand over the garbage and you pitch the things, it's that tactile sensation is more memorable than the 10,000 digital messages that most people get a day. So I hope that answers the question is, who is direct mail for? It's for people that are selling things over $1,000, to be honest with you. It's not a hard, fast rule. It's a rule of thumb.
So, but for like a B2B kind of model, does the same stuff hold out?
B2B, obviously B2B invoices tend to be a little higher. So yes, it's even better for B2B. The downside is it's harder to target the individual in a large company you want to target unless you know their name. If you send a addressee, marketing director of promo in the mail to a company that has 500 people, they may never see it. So there has to be a little more strategic thinking in sending to a company, especially a larger company. But B2B for direct mail still works very well. I mean, it's usually done in a different circumstance. I can tell you, one of our quote unquote secret weapons is I need to talk to a decision maker in a company. And what we do is we research those decision makers on LinkedIn or their social media, if it's possible. We find out, oh, they went to Miami University in Miami. They've got to be a hurricane fan, of the Miami Hurricanes, or something from down there. So we'll get them a college mug or a shirt or something that'll get their attention. Now, sure, it's $20, but you know what? Our response rate is very high because we've hyper-personalized that piece of mail to that individual, and we bribed them with a little gift too. So
yeah, that doesn't. Everybody's open for a little bit of that goodwill development. We're not going to call it bribery per se. We're just going to call it goodwill development, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
when you're building these campaigns, what are some of the outlying surprises you've seen? What are some of the ones where you're like, oh man, I didn't think this was going to work for this, but wow.
Gosh, there's so many of those. We've got on our website, we've got dozens of case studies, and there's been situations. I don't know if you've ever heard of informed delivery. It's with the post office, where you sign up with the post office. You get an email about 6 a.m. in the morning that shows you an image with a link of everything that's in your mailbox. Now, there's usually only one or two links because it's a technical product that you advertise with the post office. And we're one of the largest partners of theirs using this informed delivery advertising. And we had a customer that was a nonprofit. They solicit funds for donation. And they told us that when they used our platform, they literally asked for $50 or $100. And I was a little concerned that, even though it's a donation because they're not really selling anything, $50 or $100 your average contribution, they 5,000%ed their annual contribution drive by using our platform, mainly from this informed delivery. And, they would hope to raise $5,000 and they raised 250 grand with this one campaign. I was almost going to talk them out of it because they got little check boxes, $2, $10, $25, $50. I'm like, I don't know that it's going to work. And it blew me away. And I can tell you on the flip side of things, we've had jewelers who, are selling engagement rings that are, $5,000 to $10,000 call me up and said, I didn't get anybody. I didn't get anything. I'm like, what? And, we find out, we look at their website because, usually the mail will direct someone to a website. The website looked like it hadn't been touched since it was built in GeoCities in the 1990s. And I was able to convince them, it's not just the mail and it's not just the digital ads we do, but if you're driving someone to a website and you have a website that makes people run away or bounce or doesn't work or there's no way to contact you, you've just wasted that money. If you have a phone number and never answers the phone, so we found in times where it didn't work, in almost every time there was a blockage to actually converting that engagement. Nobody answering the phone, website was horrible, there's no conversion form. So we've learned in this process that we check their websites and we make sure that they won't be the failure of our campaign.
That's a really excellent point when it comes to the sales conversation, is making sure that your prospective customer isn't going to derail your own work, right? When it comes to kind of that checklist of things that you guys go through to make sure that all of the pieces are in place, what are the things that you need to have sort of functioning and working to really leverage this?
Well, we've actually built an automation, which we call the Fatal Five, the 5 major reasons one of our campaigns would fail. There's no mail tracking, the phone number doesn't work, the website isn't receiving, their Facebook or social media accounts are either horrible, no engagement, or not even functional. So we have a little tickler that goes out and makes sure that all these things happen. It doesn't grade the website. It just tells us if they have it, pings it. It doesn't tell us how good the Facebook page is. It makes sure they have it. It checks for a pixel on their site so we can track the engagement. But these are the things that we do on an automation basis. But it still takes human eyes and human judgment to look at an advertisement. There's so many moving parts. I know that graphics and creative are really subjective when they really could be more objective. But I can't tell you how many times that somebody has put together a postcard and they have basically written the entire text of the King James Bible on this postcard and expect people to read the entire thing. It's not going to happen. You know what they're going to do? They're going to throw it away. I'm not talking about the material. I'm talking about so much text offering so many different options of anything they sell. You can't do that in sales. You cannot offer everything to everyone. You need to keep your message poignant, simple, and targeted. And we see a lot of that too, because we don't write the copy. We don't do the creative. We are just I guess you could say we're just the messenger. We're the deliverable of those messages. So if the messages are bad, that is another cause for failure. So we've become almost marketing consultants for our clients at this point.
That's interesting. So as you've grown, I guess in many cases, the primary growth mechanism for your own business, though, has been referrals, correct?
Actually not. We have gotten a lot of referrals, but the print and advertising industry is very competitive. And the last thing a printer or an advertising agency wants to do is give their best kept secret to their friendly competitor. So we do get some word of mouth and referrals, but in the most case, we do webinars, we train people on sales and marketing, and those people tend to convert because we've delivered them value before we've asked them for anything.
Develop that strategy as part of your growth mechanism.
Pardon me, so repeat the question again.
How did you develop that strategy as part of your growth plan?
Trial and error, my friend, trial and error. We've done everything from mass mailings, trade shows, cold calls, outsourced lead gen appointment setters. And we have found, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, that delivering informational, educational webinars, asking for nothing in return other than their email address, is the way to build that sales funnel for us.
That's it's interesting because I've had mixed reports of success from the field on that. What do you think is making the webinars work well for you as opposed to maybe some of the other webinars? I'm sure you've been to other people's webinars and stuff.
Absolutely. I think it's because I tend to take subjects that are poignant. So I'll give you next month, we're doing an AI and marketing expert panel. So I go on LinkedIn, I find guys that look interesting or somewhat verbose or speakative, and I invite them on a panel. I said, listen, would you get on a panel with me and two other people? We're going to just talk about marketing and AI for 40 minutes. And people want to hear about new things. Everybody's interested in the bright, new, shiny object. And marketing is an ever-evolving subject. So if they can get 45 minutes of education with a little entertainment for giving up their email address, I get pretty good response from that. Like I said, we do one every month. We host about 200 to 300 people. About 70% actually show up for the webinars. Are always live. We do not pre-record anything because I want to be able to engage with the audience real time. And I think that might help too. I know a lot of guys are pre-recording these webinars and they're not interactive.
I'm super interested in learning more and digging deeper into some of these subjects, but I want to make sure that we keep our show on time here. So let's definitely consider having you back. But as we start to kind of wrap up here, a couple of key questions come to mind. Who should reach out to you and how should they do so?
I would say, you know what? I am a marketing geek. I love to talk and exchange ideas. Anybody who wants to talk about marketing, I'd love to meet some other people that are in real machine learning or AI of marketing. Or if somebody wants to improve their direct mail strategy or even try direct mail as a marketing strategy for their company, I got a room full of 7 experts that would love to spend 10, 15 minutes with them.
They should reach out to you via your website?
DM2.0.com or Brad at DM2.0.com.
Perfect.
Nice 4-letter domain.
Yeah, I know. That's in and of itself worth a ton of bucks these days. So, and then in your journey, which it's definitely super interesting. In your journey, what are the 3 biggest things you picked up along the way in your kind of entrepreneurial quest here?
Wow, such a deep question. Persistence. There's a fine line between giving up too soon and persisting too long on a dead end. I think that's one of them. The other thing is you learn a lot more in an adverse business climate than one where everybody's buying everything. So if you survive a downturn or a recessionary period, you'll be stronger on the other side of it. And my third thing is, listen, you've got to compartmentalize your life. The people that spend 18, 20 hours a day working to do whatever it is they do, and they don't love it, tend to be miserable people. Now, if it's your passion and you actually truly love it, by all means, spend your 18 hours a day. Go ahead. I'm not sure what your wife and kids think about that, but you're happy.
I think, Brad, I want to thank you again for being on our show today. And definitely want to check in more and dig a little bit deeper as you move forward here.
Anytime, man. Thanks for the time, Brian, and I'm ready to go again.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Consulting Trap. If you have suggestions for future episodes or would like to be a guest on our show, please send me an email at brian@podcastchef.com. That's BRIAN at podcastchef.com. Before we go, we'd like to thank the sponsor of our show, Podcast Chef. Podcast Chef helps turn ordinary podcasting into a revenue-generating lead magnet for your consulting business. Our Podcasting Done For You service takes away the headache of starting up and running your own podcast. Reach out now to take advantage of our 30-day money-back guarantee. Visit us at podcastchef.com to find out how our team of experts can help you leverage podcasting to take your business to the next level.